Action Comics 1000. 80-page prestige issue, bunch of stories by a bunch of different creators. We'll talk about who the creators are as we go through it. We're going to go through the stories one by one. We're going to talk about them, and obviously, I'm glad they did this because it's also better for a format for this show. Is that the Bendis story is at the end,
which is great because it felt like you could build up to it.
I think it also makes just sense from the point of it's leading into the next things, so it just makes sense to put it at the end because it's the only one that has a cliffhanger because it's going to be continued, whereas everything else is either a conclusion in some way to the current runs, even though they're getting another issue or two each, and then a lot of the other stuff is just sort of standalone little stories by fairly big creators as we're going through this. Without further ado, let's get cracking into Action Comics 1000 as I scroll through the 10 goddamn covers in the digital version before I get to the first actual page. Oh, here we go.
A lot of covers.
Well, and these are just the
regular ones.
The regular ones, yeah. There's something like 30 retailer exclusive covers if you want to go hunting for those. By some very notable artists. So the first two stories actually are again kind of making sense in that they're kind of cappers to the current runs. So the first story is by current Action Comics writer Dan Jurgens, who's also done the art on this issue. Right. So this story is called From the City That Has Everything, and it's Superman's in space. He's fighting off alien threats. And Lois, meanwhile, is trying to get him to come down because there's a thing happening, and it turns out there's a Superman Appreciation Day. There's a stage, there's a bit of a parade, whole 9 yards, and Superman is kind of reluctant. He's like, no, I've got people to save, I've got aliens to go fight. I don't want to do this. This makes me uncomfortable. All this, all this
people
credit.
Tell me thank you.
Yes, all this credit. It's not for me. And honestly, the most notable thing about this one is probably the fact that Lois gets to do the shirt opening thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, John even cracks a joke. Hey, she's been waiting to do that all day. So, I guess my only critique of the art in that page would be that she looks a little bit too upset about it.
Yeah, almost like he's making me do this.
I feel like there should be a bit of a smirk in her face or something. But hey, otherwise the art's pretty solid. Dan Jurgens, obviously a classic.
You know
Superman
what you
artist.
get with Jurgens, don't you?
Yeah. Maggie Sawyer's there. She speaks on his behalf, tells a story about him saving people. We get this ex-con who's kind of reformed, and Clark's even like, oh, I do remember him. It's this whole thing. And the whole time this is going on, Lois keeps been on the phone, and it sounds like she's talking to Perry. No, Clark's busy. He's busy today. You can't call him in. Yep. But the big twist of the issue, and again, because these are all shorter stories, even this one, which is probably one of the longer ones, is still short compared to a regular issue. Yeah. The whole thing, Wonder Woman sort of stops Superman from running off to go and save the day, and it turns out that the entire time she's been talking to Batman on the phone because the Justice League have been taking care of the threats to make sure he's got his day to celebrate. And we have the entire...
Yeah, with a little assist from Martian Manhunter, throwing some psychic blocks in there.
Oh, of course, yeah. And we get that big double page of like the entire Justice League and some Green Lantern Corps members and Supergirl's there.
Of everyone.
Yeah, Brewster Gold's there. So I did like this first story then, the Jurgens.
I like it.
What does the dog think? That's the important part.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. Okay.
No, but no, I liked it. It was a nice kickoff. It felt of an era though. It felt very much not even of the new Jurgens era, but it felt very of the '90s Jurgens classic.
Yeah.
I would say that John being there, obviously.
Yeah, other than John being there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't really feel like too much of a capper from his run, but it was still nice.
No, I think it's the perfect way to start the book because it's everyone there going, hey, you're the reason we're all here, and that's kind of the point. That's why we're doing this celebration issue. Is like, yeah, you're the reason all of this stuff's happened. So it's a nice place to start because of that.
Yeah, it works. And it's one because I think this one and then the Tomasi one, and then obviously the Bendis one because it's actually the things. They're the ones that feel like they're definitely in continuity to an extent. Not that this has to be. This could just be a random thing, but I mean, there's no reason why it's not in continuity. There's nothing to say. No,
it's just a regular day, basically.
Yeah, regular day with a Superman parade. But no, it all works and. No, like you say, I think it's a sweet kind of intro. I mean, let's be honest, most of this book is a love letter to Superman in some way. Which does take us on to the Tomasi and Gleason, which is basically a story told entirely in full-page spreads. In fact, you could almost go as far to say that they're all cover quality. They're all pin-up quality.
They are, yeah.
They're all basically posters. They just happen to have text. And then basically the simple plot of this one is that Vandal Savage is basically trapped Superman in some sort of weird time trap, this time loop thing.
Yeah.
Which sends him going through... So, let's be honest, on a meta level, this is an excuse to have a series of pages where Superman's in his various costumes throughout the eras, doing very similar things we've seen him do in various time periods. So you've got him punching gangsters, you've got him stopping a train.
It's a history lesson.
Yeah. You've got him picking up a tank, you've got all these things.
What this is here, this is... You know how they did all the variant covers, which are all the decades? Mm-hmm. This is that, just with a story over the top of it.
Story written to it.
Pretty much. That's very true. Yeah.
And I like it how it starts where he's fighting gangsters, and he mentions, like, he can't fly, but he can jump real high, and he's super strong. And it's completely different than he moves on to stopping the train, and, you know, and how he feels different through the eras, but he's still pretty much the same, you know, so...
And it does that whole, you know, where he goes, you know, I know I couldn't have done this, but I feel like I've done this before.
Yep.
That, okay, in some ways, kind of all of it has happened.
It's acknowledging the reboot nature of comics and the kind of, you know, happened.
Yeah, the different, almost parallel dimensions he's jumping into and out of, but the one anchor point that keeps him focused is his family. And every time he does something in one of these, he jumps out because of his family, and then it throws him into the next one.
And I'm pretty sure most of these pages are references to actual classic moments in some way or another. I mean, there's one that's basically a Dark Knight Dark Knight Returns homage to Lightning.
Even thanks Miller on that.
Yep.
In the signature in the bottom corner.
Yeah, you're quite right. And you've got the Silver Banshee cover. You've got him in his Return of Superman black outfit.
I like so jumping from that page where he's fighting Mongol. Mongol's like low key one of my favorite Superman villains. But after it's a animated series villains, because you have Jaxer and I can't remember the lady right there. But I mean it's supposed to be Zod and.
Oh, you mean the Superman the movie homage almost with the Phantom Zone glass and the fortress, yeah.
Yeah, but even the villains are very Dini-esque. Or not Dini-esque, but the Tim-verse, you know, so I like that. And then you get the Kingdom Come page, which, you know, seeing Gleason's versions of all of these, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. This is basically, hey, Gleason, show off for 10 pages.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's almost like here's a series of page ideas, and then Tomasi went, okay, I'll kind of do a story that kind of fits all these together somehow, some way. I think because of that, there is like almost stiltiness to it, but I can't deny that I had fun flicking through them and being like, oh, and or no.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think part of it's a little cheap. They're all one page because it kind of feels, you know, cynically they're padding, right, the 80 pages, but they all look so nice. I don't care. It's, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's padding. I'd say it's more. Like, you can't conventionally do a story like this for a lot of reasons, but I think as one story in an anthology, it works well enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd love to get all the art without all the caption boxes on for a lot of these. That'd make some great foam backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yes, they would.
So no, it ends with him. It's his birthday, and he's got a cake. And again, it literally was Superman's birthday. The release of this.
I haven't counted them, but I assume there's 80 candles because there is a lot on that cake. No, don't count them.
I'm not counting them, but I'm just looking at it. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's enough to be 80.
Yeah, but if you think if it goes all the way around as well.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay, but
because there's a lot on the bottom.
Okay, sure. If you assume there's double because there's another side to it. I just meant visually. I don't think you can see 80.
Yeah, so there's at least 40 on that bottom tier right there.
Do you think?
Yeah, if you count them all the way around.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, but anyways, Crypto's there. Crypto's a good boy. We all know that.
Crypto's a good boy.
Yeah. You've read that story, right? Crypto, good boy? Where it's...
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
So this was called Never Ending Battle. by Tomasi and Gleason. So, so there you go. That was story number 2. Next up, we got An Enemy Within. This is by Marv Wolfman, art by Kurt Swan. And as I understand it, this was actually old pages of Kurt Swan's art that Marv Wolfman just sort of wrote a story onto.
Yep.
Yeah.
So page 5 was courtesy of Superman: The Secret Years #2.
Yeah.
So that's really the only one that was finished of those with the actual, as I understand it, as it went out.
I think page 5 is the final page of that story.
Yeah.
Which is the full page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the art looks a little bit different now, so that makes a lot of sense. So it's basically this story of this guy who's being controlled into this to be a hostage taker, and like, Maggie Sawyer and that don't realise, oh wait, no, he's being controlled, it's not really him. But then it turns out, oh no wait, they're using rubber bullets, even they're being compassionate.
Which I feel with how it goes in the original story, it was not rubber bullets. I'm just
not.
Yeah. But yeah. I read that and went, oh, okay, this is kind of, I appreciate what they were trying to do because it is Kurt Swan, but Superman really doesn't show up until that last page.
No, because it's supposed to be about, it was Brainiac is trying to control people, which unfortunately is the only Brainiac story we really get in the book. I thought it was okay though. I mean, just in the idea of Superman, like, oh no, my faith in people has been, held up because they didn't kill him.
No, I don't think it's the best story, but I think it's the best that you can get given the challenge of, okay, here are these pages, now make a Superman story out of them.
Yeah.
They did the same in the Swamp Thing, where they took the unfinished Len Wein and wrote around that.
Oh, they never actually wrote around that, though. They just...
posted the art and then just the script stuff, right?
Afterwards, because that's why it was just on the back of the actual main King story, so that it wasn't on its own. Then next up we had Superman in the Game. This is Paul Evans and Neil Adams, with Adams also doing the art. Which I have to admit, when I saw those names, I was like, Adams, okay, this is going to be batshit insane, and
yeah, but he had Blevitz to rein him back in.
That is true. Well, clearly that's the case because they play a game of chess. And,
it's such, like, Silver Age Luthor. Like, that Levitz couldn't help himself to give him that Gene Hackman-y, maniacal Luthor. And I loved it.
Even the fact that he has kryptonite chains come up and like wrap Superman up, and Superman, you get that big page of him breaking the kryptonite chains. He's like, but how? It's kryptonite. And he's like, my friend Mr. Miracle gave me a mother box, and that let me feel okay for enough time.
Sorry, I have a question. Is this only in the digital version?
What?
I don't think so.
Because this isn't in my copy, and even I'm looking at the credits page, like the contents at the start. I go from An Enemy Within to the car.
So Connor's got a defective copy of Action 1000.
Hang on, I've got 2 copies. Let me check my other one.
Check the other one, because I got the digital first, right? Because I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
As you do.
No, it's not. It's not in the physical copies.
Oh snap!
Ah.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to buy it for a third time.
I mean, it's not it's like a 4-page story, and it's not the best one in the book by any means, but...
Yeah, but I need to read it.
You got a defective copy of the book. I had no idea there was a digital exclusive.
I didn't either. This is news to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, they're just... It's their differences as, Luthor's thinking that he has a trap set, but Superman's, prepared for that by, invoking a mother box from Scot-Free to get him out of the kryptonite chains. So,
yeah, it's a complete Deus Ex Machina. It's like, oh, can mother boxes do that now? Okay. Out of nowhere, sure. And that's basically it. Lex Luthor's all grumpy. He's like, that's Superman. I'll get him one day. That's just a goofy little story. And then we go on to The Car, which is the Jeff Johns and Richard Donner story with Oliver Coipel on the art. And this is basically almost like a fun little... I say fun. It's got a very sort of. It's probably got the moodiest tone of the book, but I say fun in the sense that they basically take Action Comics #1, specifically the cover, and the idea that Superman wrecked this car full of gangsters, and it's a gangster getting his car worked on the next day, and Superman coming to see him to sort of let him try and convince him to get his life on track, and some really good imposing stuff in here. Like the shot of on the second page of this where the guy, the mechanic's asking him like, "Oh, so what did you hit an elephant?" And you just see this like flashback of like the car lights hitting Superman before it hits him.
Yep.
It's really
this is a man wearing red underwear. Like I felt like that was the under theme to this was the red shorts are back.
Actually, honestly, I was surprised in the first story that they had them on. I really thought it was going to be no trunks until the Bendis story. As if by the end he's got the trunks again. But no, every single story.
The other piece of art I really liked, it's on the third page, and it's him looking up in the sky, and it's a bird. He looks up higher, and it's a plane, and then it's Superman. Such a Johns. This is such a Johns story. This is why Johns is my favorite writer, because he can take this little, the cover of Action Comics #1, and then tell a story around that, So, and I wonder how much Donner put into. But it's I just like to think that they came up with it together.
Yeah,
but John's the heavy lifting.
There's something surreal about seeing that original costume, but in like modern comic art. Like actually defined and coloured and shading.
Yeah, I love the boots. With the braces of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and I like the moral of the story too. Superman going, you're better than this. Like, those guys you're hanging out with aren't really you. And he's like, I understand you had a rough upbringing, but, why don't you try to do something good?
Yeah.
And it's all about how Superman... Exactly. And that's how Superman, how people relate to him.
Yeah.
But he stops to talk with this guy. Like, Superman doesn't have to, but he goes and finds this guy that was the driver of the car, and they have a conversation, and it just... Man, that's why I love Superman, was in this story.
Yeah. Also, it's taken the golden age, because golden age is kind of a rougher time in terms of the comics, because Superman and Batman were going around killing people left and right. Times changed.
That was the thing with Superman, is he operated in the day, Batman operated at night, and Superman wouldn't hesitate to drop a dude off a building. And Batman wouldn't hesitate to pull out a gun and ice him. So it's a different time.
It's really dark. It's almost, when you think about it, imagine putting that in a movie, Superman as normal, not under red kryptonite, not under control, just
Zack Snyder, gotcha.
Would just casually drop people off buildings because the bad guy, kill him. Yeah. That's terrifying.
It'd be a great threat tactic. Like you're gonna give me the information, fine, I'll drop you. Then just go down, catch him. Right, now you're gonna talk.
Oh sure, yeah. If it's just intimidation, sure. But so that's the Johns and Donner story. It's with the gangster going and turning on the hydrant for the kids because it's warm in the summer, and they're because that's another theme of the story is it's really warm and sweaty. Connor knows that pain, don't you, Connor?
Oh boy, it's been warm here today, and I am dying.
Let me know when you come visit the desert, bud. Well, we'll talk about warm.
So next up, we have the Scott Schneider in Albuquerque.
I'm on edge now. Every time you say next up, I'm
like, how many stories have I missed? How many were in my copy? So yeah, this is a story with Superman and Lex, and they're at the planetarium in Smallville. And it's basically, we get like a flashback of like how like Lex should have set himself on fire as a kid, but Clark was there and actually used his heat vision to like stop it. And I'm like, okay, they're doing the whole, they're both kids in Smallville origin, which comes in and out depending on which continuity we're in. But
to me, as a hardcore Superman fan, that is the continuity, whether it's Secret Origin or Birthright. Like those are the ones that I really prefer, because it builds that. Why Lex? It's not just Superman. It's Clark Kent. It's the person that he's a polar opposite from.
It is, and it's also, I like it for Lex in the idea that, I don't know, he's secretly from, he's this small town kid, but trying to be better and bigger.
Well, they're both. It gives them a parallel path. Whereas Superman went into the, hey, I'm going to do what's best for everybody and help people. Luthor's like, oh no, man, I'm making money. I'm never going to be poor again, and they both became the peak of their potential. So I like that parallel journey with them. And here I like what Snyder does because it sets up that parallel really well through their stories, like it sets them, like with Albuquerque, in the same room with their past parts,
Yeah.
Like there's no separate panel, it's all one part, so yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
really like that.
all the visuals are all of planets behind them and suns and stars exploding. It's all very big and grandiose, even though they're just in a planetarium. But it gives you the imagery of all this insane stuff. Like these, despite the fact that Lex is not up to Superman's level physically, this is still a feeling that you're watching two titans speak about the nature of the universe.
Yeah.
They're fighting for its very existence and so on.
Here was my question. Lex knows that Clark's Superman?
No.
They talk about the 5th season. He goes, I got the eye and the scissors to kill you. So
yeah, they talk about the 5th season, and just because because Lex is explaining it at first, like he doesn't know that Superman's from somewhere like this that will understand it, and then he joins in, and Lex is like, okay, you get it, you're from somewhere like here too, not necessarily Smallville, but another small town that has that same.
Because I just thought maybe it's an out of continuity kind of deal, and they're. Because what does that mean then? I got the eye and the scissors to kill you.
It's because that's the start of the story. That's why he's here at the planetarium. Is he got this? The Eye of Zotar and Cronus's time scissors.
Oh, Jesus Christ! All right, this is what happens when you read it at 5:30 in the morning.
MacGuffin items that could kill Superman.
He basically says, if you use them together, you can cut any genealogical line from history.
Gotcha. Okay. Excuse my ignorance there. That was reading it way too early in the morning.
Takes us on to the story by Francis Manapul. I'm kidding, Connor. Tom King stories now.
See that look of fear?
I know.
Don't do this to me.
Bro, if there's a Manapul story, I would have.
I know about it. Yeah. I know about that.
Yeah, that's all right. It was just the first. I'll be honest. It's the first creator who's not in the book that I thought of, and I went with it. That's all it was.
I'm actually really annoyed about this digital thing. Like I didn't know about this. I wouldn't mind if I'd known.
So here's a spoiler. It's not going to be in my top 5. You're fine, and it's
not
Neil Adams.
Point.
But here's my thing with Neil Adams. I understand what he did for comics, and he's a legend, and he's a grumpy old man, which is life goals for me.
Oh, yeah, I think he's one of these guys. He did a lot for the medium in the 70s and 80s and stuff. But I mean, his stuff now is kind of
that look to it. Like I tried to read The Reign of the Superman, and it was just ungood.
I don't want to necessarily say that he's in the same league as Frank Miller, but it's a similar kind of journey where you go back to the 70s and 80s Frank Miller. You're in gold. Yeah. You're in gold the whole way through.
Yeah, 60s, 70s Neil Adams, like him working with Denny O'Neil and whatnot. Like that's legendary stuff, and I'm not taking that away. But now, between his Batman Odyssey works and his Reign of Superman, and what's his latest one?
He's a Dead Man.
Question? Or Dead Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. The art's it's rough, and I get it. He's an older man. Good up to him to, keep it going, but you're not missing that much, Connor.
I know, but it's the completionist in me. It means I'm going to have to go and buy it and read that now.
Your copy's incomplete.
Both of them, I know.
So, Tom King's story with Clayman on the art, and oh boy, the art. I'm so
glad I didn't read this when they put it out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they put it out on Twitter, yeah.
I was going to say, not Manapul, but close.
Yeah.
Man is slowly creeping up.
Oh, for me, man's ranking higher, but I mean,
honestly, the standout of this story is Jodie Belair. The colours are what makes this what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing, because I know that man's typically,
he's very good at it.
He's fantastic anyway, but I mean that with the colouring, because at first you think, is Superman, is he in the sun? It's all bright and fiery and red and yellow, and there's all these sort of lighting effects and all the rest of it. But what this story actually is this is actually Earth. Earth is dying. People have already left. He implies that people have moved on elsewhere, and he even says that Lois has been taking something to still be alive.
It's the Eternity formula. Yeah. It keeps her.
He mentioned Earth's been abandoned for about 4 billion years.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
4 billion.
Which is means it's a long time for Lois. Even if we abandon it in the next 20 years, Lois is still $4 billion odd.
Aye, and I mean, it looks good. He hasn't gone grey at all.
Yeah.
And he talks about John, so we know John's still kicking around.
Yeah, and he basically is sort of like visiting. There's this whole thing where he goes to his parents' grave, like Man Pa Kent. And sort of like, it's almost like he's respecting this place as like not only his home, but that's where they came from. As the Earth is dying, it's very sweet.
Yeah, so as it goes out and it's going to be consumed, and wherever all the humans have gone, you feel like Superman's still shepherding them as he has, but he has to go and pay his last respects, and he leaves that crystal, which I assume is him with the Kents, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it also kind of looks like him with John and Lois too. But
I think that's intentional, just in the sense that whenever they draw John with Superman and Lois, it's meant to evoke imagery of him with the Kents.
Right. And so, and I'm the type of person that when I think of Superman, I think of the Kents first, not the Kryptonians. Like, to me, he's a farmer boy from the small town before he's an alien. And so this one kind of hit me hard, like right in the heartlight, that he's going back and talking to Ma and Pa Kent and how proud he would be, or they would be, of John, because he's just as stubborn as Ma.
It's one of these stories that I wasn't expecting at this point in the issue, because all the others have been looking back, they're the greatest hits, they're all these the past moments. And this one's, it's called Of Tomorrow. It's all about, okay, let's look forwards. And it's one of the only stories here that really does look forwards.
Yeah,
the character.
And what I like about it is that it feels like it's the end, but it's not actually the end, because he says, no, humans have all moved on. We're all just, this is your Firefly or your Expanse, whatever. But human beings have just moved to other planets. They're fine.
He's still around saving. Not Earth, but wherever.
Well, yeah. Well, from Legion timeline, right? Like that's the year 3000. So
yeah, this is way past that.
Oh yeah, this is 4 billion, Matt.
Yeah.
So no, there's a very touching story. It's probably one of the most emotionally hitting stories I think in the book. Which takes us on to 5 Minutes by Louise Simonson and Jerry Ordway on the art. And this is a story about Perry demanding, Clark, you got a deadline, 5 minutes. I need that story on my desk because these things are happening. But of course, various disasters start to happen around Metropolis, and Superman has to go save a train. The train conductor, the driver, he's dropped, not quite dead, but he's had a heart attack or whatever. He's passed out, and he's having to stop the train, and he's saving people. He's Bebo needs help, and of course Superman, he goes around, he saves people in the story. There's a fallen satellite at one point, so he's got the train to save, then he's got the mugging to save, then he's got the fallen satellite. Everything's going wrong, and he gets back. Yeah, he's like, oh, thank God for super speed. He gets it down, and he just about finishes it, and Perry's like, sorry, Kent, that's old news. We got Superman, train derailments, and everything else. Grab Jimmy, go, off you go. Do a story.
Yeah, right. I need a front, what does it say, top of the fold picture.
Yeah.
There also. Yeah. I do love the idea that I've never thought of this before, that the reason why Clark Kent is so bumbling is because he can't report because he is the news.
Yeah, he can't keep up. As soon as he tries to, it's like, oh, well, now there's a new story.
Yeah. So to Perry, he's always following behind the news because he's, busy with other things, whatever that is to Perry White. But no, he's Superman and he is the news. Like,
I like the idea that Perry thinks he just goes to the toilet for like 5 minutes at a time, like like however many times a day he does this.
Yeah, he's a nervous bladder.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this story. I think it was nice to get Louise Simonson in there, bring an older name back as well. I mean, obviously, this is not the only example. Obviously, we're talking about Neil Adams. Not that Connor read that story, but
Jerry Ordway doing the art too.
Yeah,
I know.
So it still holds up.
Yeah, because Ordway, he was doing art during the whole the 90s death of and all that, right? He was doing it during that era, if I remember.
Well, yeah, he worked. I know he worked with Johns on JSA and whatnot too. Up as late as I want to say 2009. So, but it's still. I mean, that's a classic DC artist as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it gave it that classic feel too. That could have happened in any era. Like they could have just plucked that story from anywhere in Superman's history, and and it
Oh
still
yeah,
fit.
there's absolutely nothing in it that would say, oh, this is from any particular. I mean, maybe not the earliest of earliest because of the suit's more modern, but basically anything from like the 50s to now, this could be from any of those decades in terms of its origin.
There's really not anything that dates it, is there?
Nah.
No.
Which does take us on to the Paul Dini story with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez on the art, talking about classic Superman artists.
Yep.
This is called Action Land. And this was a bit weird at first. Like, what's going on here? We got this woman. Sort of, it's like a Superman museum, and she's taking the kids around.
All I know is I need to go here.
Yeah, what's that, Connor?
The theme park, not museum.
Sorry, theme park. And they're going this race. Like, oh, we're going to like be the rocket that left Krypton, and everyone knows who Clark Kent is now. You're going to lift a tractor just like Clark did, and you're going to do all these things.
It's like baby Clark Kent.
Yeah. You see, here's the rogues gal. Here's all the villains. You get this, you get to fight all the villains who are, I assume, are all nerfed. It's like Westworld. It's all the robots that let you win, basically. And
you're not. I mean, necessarily fighting them on this, tour. You know what I mean? You're watching Superman handle them, and then the Justice League shows up.
In which case, it's a missed opportunity. They should get the Westworld hosts to pretend to be the villains so you can beat them up.
Yeah.
They should.
I just want to point out here in this Justice League. If you look at Supergirl's costume, it's the the very was that 60s 70s
70s I think
Most of the designs on it are very JLA Year One.
Yeah.
So just turning that page and seeing that, I was like, oh man, I love Garcia Lopez so much.
And then you've just got Mr. Miracle on the end.
Yeah.
Well, he's the end thing now. He's hot thanks to Tom King. So now he's popping. There's references to him Scott Free popping up all over the place. And any time the page, it's like, oh, but then Superman's final battle, the one that finally put him down at the hands of Mxyzptlk, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then it turns out this entire thing is some weird kinky sex role playing between Mixie and his wife, and it's Mixie. Oh, I'm the one who defeated Superman, therefore I'm the end of the story.
Yeah. And he can't come up with the ending good enough to stick the landing. He's because he's not defeated him yet, and he's just like, I can't do it. I can't think of the perfect story.
Well, because that's not Mixie. Mixie doesn't actually want to defeat Superman.
Right.
So that reminded me of I haven't read the story in forever, so I forgot how it went. And so spoilers for whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow. At the end of that, it's revealed to be Mixie that's pulled all these strings, and it's Alan Moore telling the last Superman story. So that's what I thought this was a reference to, until you get to that end page where she just kind of is like, well, no, that's not really who you are. You're still just the guy, the imp with the purple hat.
Yeah, you're just like the mischief and the fun. You don't actually want to win. Because, let's be honest, if he wanted to win, he'd win.
Exactly. I mean, he could blink him out of existence if he wanted to.
Right, exactly. Not even, have to think about it.
Yeah. And then you get the other imps, which the Thunderbolt's there,
Yeah.
That might, and I don't recognize the other one that's there with them.
Me either.
So if anyone knows, hit us up.
I'm sure it's a deep cut, whatever it is.
Yeah. But yeah, Dini, I love how he played with the expectations there. Like, is this a future? Because up to this point, again, it was all stuff from the past, except for the Tom King.
But it's not. It's just a kinky sex stream, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, no. But it works now. It works with Mixie. It's a fun story, the fun twist. Which takes us on to the next story, and forgive me, the title and credits aren't at the start of this one, so I'll tell you what it is at the end.
Faster Than a Speeding Bullet.
There you
by
go.
Brad Meltzer. Art
there
by
you go.
John
Brad Meltzer, there you go.
This might be highly rated by me, that's why I know it.
That's very good. I don't dislike it. So the whole premise of this is it all takes place in the space of about 5 seconds because there's a hostage situation going on. There's a guy with a gun to a girl's head, and Superman's flying from up in the skyline trying to get to her, and the whole thing plays out very slowly. You see the spark of the gun, the bullets going through the chamber. I love the blur effect of Superman's flying towards her, through the city.
Like he speeds up.
Yeah. And
he's narrating everything.
It's the way it zooms in on him as well, isn't it?
Yep.
It has
just shows great motion.
It has that feeling of like I'm thinking of Battlestar Galactica, but they do it in like documentaries and stuff, where usually during like dogfights with planes, they'll do that thing in documentaries where they zoom in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mid shot, like that's kind of what it feels like almost this moment.
And he's talking about how it's just physics. Like, I'm going to do my best to get to her, but it's just physics at this point. I'm going to be too late. I was too far away.
It's just math. It's numbers. Yeah.
That's it. It's like, this is my speed. This is the distance. That's how low I've got. I can't do this.
But what he doesn't account for almost is that she actually affects the outcome by just distracting him, just making him nudge enough that it's going to take that extra split second for the gun for the bullet to get there. And it's just Superman bolting in and just putting his hand right next to her head and grab, so the bullet hits his hand instead. It's a really simple little story, but I actually do like how effective it is. It's the sort of thing, though, if it was a joke issue, you could almost have the flash speed in at the last second and do it instead.
Yeah.
And just have Superman be like, damn it, Barry.
Yeah.
I was almost there.
At the end, because the girl's name was Lila, and what killed me is Superman's like, that was very brave. And she goes, I just said what Batman would do. Right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, that's a joke. And then I'm just going to read it. He goes, I knew that. I mean it, though. You should think about joining the police. And he says, you sound like my dad. We're all here for a reason. And then he just up and leaves, and it's a classic Superman pose. He goes, your dad's a smart man. Yeah. And then he has a conversation with Lois about that. And, oh, man, this just made me feel all warm and fuzzy. Because I was worried he wasn't going to make it. Because Brad Meltzer that's the guy that killed Sue Dibney in Identity Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can go dark.
He can go dark. He's a good writer.
Not in this issue, though.
Yeah.
No,
I will say this.
I was worried about that. But no.
Her name is Lila, and my first thought was, if her last name starts with L, then Lois better worry, because, he's got a thing for these types of people, is all I'm saying.
Lana Lang, Lori Lamaris, Lois Lane. Yeah.
I'm
surprised, hasn't he?
I'm half surprised he's not tried to bang Lex shit. In fact, do you know what? That's what the whole rivalry is. It's just homoerotic tension they've not established yet. They've not come to terms with it, and it's leading to all this aggression. And that's
got to be an Elseworlds already, right?
I'm sure it is. It's definitely a slash fiction somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. No, I have no doubt about that.
Superman uses his heat vision on his head, and it makes a sort of glitter ball type effect. So the red beams going off everywhere. Anyway, but no, I agree.
Looks like his brain, though.
Yeah, this was a solid, actually. Fast on the Speed and Bullet was solid.
And when Cassidy has time, his work is phenomenal.
So good.
Yeah.
Superman I like is he looks like a regular dude. He's not this big, imposing, muscle-bound guy. He looks like a regular dude, but he's still big, like you can tell.
I will say
he seems like a normal Joe.
I like the art a lot, except I think the last page suffers a little bit. I think Superman's face is just a little bit on the weird side.
Yeah, I think that's Cassidy, though.
Yeah, I think it's just that second panel where his eyes are slightly offline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. Also, the way he's flying away, though, I think his knees are a little bit weird. It kind of feels like he's like at a glance, it almost doesn't look his knees actually bending. It's just he's got a really short leg. I don't know. It's weird. It looks the proportions.
With the shading, I got that it was supposed to be bent.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. It just looks a little bit, I guess, flat to me. I guess rather than his knees actually sticking out. If that makes any sense.
I got you.
But like I say, I like the art in the rest of the issue quite a lot. It's just that last page that I thought was a little bit rougher compared to the rest of it. Which does actually lead us on to the final story of
the big one
of the book. Yes, the Bendis and Jim Lee story. I want to congratulate Jim Lee for completing all 8 pages without needing a fill-in. First and foremost, let's give him a round of applause. Jim Lee.
Honestly, this is the real reason it was delayed. It wasn't so they could get it for the birthday. It was like, hang on, Jim Lee's doing the main event at the end. We better give him an extra month.
Extra month? No, these 8 pages are why he didn't finish the first issue of the Immortal Men. He had to finish these 8 pages.
So I'm just going to say that let's give Jim Lee congratulations, but that first panel is the same panel from Hush, from when Batman knocks him the poison ivy.
Yeah. That wonderful page where Batman punches Superman. It's a great page.
Yes. Is where it comes from. So I open up, I go, son of a bitch, he recycled it.
Reusing his work.
Yeah.
Self-plagiarism.
Yeah.
No,
hey,
Jim
it's
Lee
not.
has to get hold of this. I didn't call you a hack. That was Connor. I'm just saying.
There's nothing wrong with tracing if you're tracing your own drawing.
Yeah, I'm just reusing it and recoloring it and taking the green out because his neck is very exposed. And that was I'm just saying.
That looks like Zack Snyder's Superman's had a go at him.
Yeah. But this story. So.
Before we get into it. Okay. I want to build this up because obviously Connor's been saying for months that he's not looking forward to Bendis, right? He's worried. Bendis was coming. He knew it was coming, and he was worried. But unlike us, it wasn't a sweet message.
Jokes I'm not gonna make.
It wasn't a sweet message to him. To him, it was a warning. It was a warning sign of things to come. A plague. A harbinger.
Compare Bendis to a plague, Peter.
A harbinger of doom. Oh, goddamn hair in my mouth. I can't get it.
That's what you get for having 3 cats.
It is. That or the beard. It's one of the two. Anyway.
Peter looks like he's slowly turning into a cat person. This is great.
I got it! You fucker. Right. So.
Well, we can just turn our explicit.
Oh, God. Bendis came indeed. So.
Oh, no.
So, the story here is basically like it's almost like at the start of a TV show you get the scene towards the end of the story and then it'll like jump back. This feels like that scene for this story for Man of Steel. It feels like this actually takes place somewhere in issue 5 maybe of Man of Steel. Yeah. So it's a tease for this coming story, and we get a glimpse of this villain. Obviously, well, I don't want to talk about the final line, the reveal at the end. I want to save that and talk about that on its own. But basically, Superman's getting his ass kicked. This villain's jumping out. There's some impressive action sequencing. Supergirl shows up and tries to help fight as well. Gets some punches in. Gets whacked as well. And it's kind of in traditional Bendis fashion. It's kind of from the perspective of these two bystanders who try to help Superman. The idea that there's these two people trying to who are being good and trying to help him and like protect him when he's like not able to defend himself. And it's kind of from their perspective. So that's the gist of the story. But before I ask Matt what he thinks, before I give what I think, I want to start this with what did Connor think?
Honestly,
I hate you right now.
I think it's not bad. It's inoffensive. I think it's pretty standard and just okay. It's a standard Superman story, and then I get towards to the end. I go, ugh. It actively unexcites me.
Right, we'll save the end. Like you say.
No, that's fine. But I think the design of the villain is really uninspired.
No, I'll give you that.
I'm not holding that against Bendis.
No, I'll give you that one. I think the villain, he looks like a cross between Doomsday and like I don't know.
It's Doomsday if you peel some skin off.
Yeah, but he's got a giant axe.
He does have a giant axe. I think the villain does look kind of generic and comic booky, for better or worse. Here's my thing with Bendis though. I don't typically necessarily rate his like villains in the plot. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say because that sounds really negative. But what I mean by that is what he does really well is characterization and how the plot affects the characters. So I'm not necessarily worried that I don't think his villain looks that exciting, because it's more the implications and what the impact and the fallout of the character is going to be from what happens with the villain.
In his Daredevil run, Matt Murdock is Daredevil's biggest villain.
Oh yeah, he goes through absolute hell.
Yeah, so and it's all the decisions that Matt has to make in order to be Daredevil that end up getting him into trouble. So I look at what's revealed at the end of this and think, okay, well, what's Superman going to do at this? How is he going to become his own villain?
We'll say. I mean, I did like it. I suppose I'll get that out of the way. Matt, did you enjoy it? Yes.
Oh, definitely. Anytime you can start with Superman just getting the tar beat out of him, because it's so really rare to see, and I like when you can give him a physical threat. I mean, Jeff Johns' Brainiac, when Brainiac's revealed, and he's this big hulking guy. It got me. So
again, going back to the idea of it's from this perspective of the two bystanders, and they're the most Bendis-y in terms of dialogue for sure. The way they're talking
big time. When they're talking about how heavy he is, and they're talking about, he has the red shorts on. Huh.
Yeah. So I think what that does for it is, again, going back to the idea that it's kind of sweet that they're helping him, but it kind of sells the threat that there's two just normal people trying to drag Superman off the street because he's getting the shit kicked out of him. And of course that's when Supergirl shows up during this, and she kind of holds the fight for a little bit during this. And I think the action's quite impressive when it gets going. I think what I'm sold on from this is how he's going to treat the... How do I put this? How he's going to treat how Superman's supposed to feel and how important he is to the people around him. I'm already getting that sense from how these characters interact with them.
It already has more development for Metropolis than anything in the DCEU. Like you could spoon feed us and tell us that the people cared about Superman, but there's more in these 8 pages of like
I agree.
Actually caring about Superman than anything in any of those movies. So, you know, and
I'll give you that, but that's it's not that strong a praise, is it?
Well, no part of it. So I like the Kara's got a part here. I like the Kara swoops in.
So his name's Rogolzar. Where's the R? However we're pronouncing it. And he calls Kara a cousin sister. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Like,
I assume just female cousin.
Yeah, but I don't know with the way that he speaks and with which he seems to understand Kryptonian culture. Like, I feel like this is part of the retcon that Bendis is going to drop on us coming up.
Well, you think they're going to do some sort of weird thing where they're actually brother and sister?
Yeah. So if you use the traditional, the John Byrne Man of Steel origin with the birthing matrix, if it's from the same DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're all being cloned from like this, well, not cloned, but created in a lab, essentially, you know, that would change family dynamics, you would think. So I don't know. I think I'm reading into it too close.
I think you probably are. I just took it as like country speak almost. Oh, not that he would be speaking in country speak, but just.
But his,
I think it's just a way of differentiating between male and female cousins, because obviously cousin is neutral.
Yeah.
Whereas you have then sister and brother. So
but it's also those hints that we got, you know, from what was it, Brian Cunningham, over Twitter.
Yeah,
remember they said that there's big things coming up that changes Kara. Yeah. You know, and we know that her book just, you know, hit 20 issues and is gone now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, as long as the plan for Kara is not to kill her, I'm okay with whatever they're going for here.
I feel that he has big things planned for her, and I don't think that just throwing that word out there like that. I
do like that it feels like she's going to be used in the sense that she would show up to help Superman fight because she's just as powerful. Like she should be kind of as part of that world in that sense. So I'm glad that she's kind of featuring here, even in this story, because this is. I mean, obviously she's standing around in like the first story, but this is the only story where she has like a prominent kind of entrance and part of it. I will say actually, and this is obviously a compliment to the art as well, is when Superman actually starts fighting with him, particularly the page where he hits the glass against the bookstore, and then he gets driven through it in the next page. I actually think the action is really exciting. It's really impressive.
This is probably the top Jim Lee work I've seen in a while.
Yeah,
he hasn't done much.
He brought his A game. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see how this was scripted, because obviously Marvel are much looser on their scripting of giving the artists much more leeway in what they do compared to DC traditionally.
Anyway, so let's talk about this last page. So he gets Superman down. He gets his big sword axe out because the bottom of it's a big blade as well. So it's like an axe and a sword in one, Matt. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
He says, your bloodline must end. So he's after Kryptonians, as kind of was obvious by him shouting, Kryptonians! As he was going around. But this is for Kryptonian. The Kryptonian sickness finally ends today, just like I once promised Jor-El. Then he stabs Superman in the chest, right through the emblem, and says, and it goes black at the bottom, it says, when I destroyed the planet Krypton. And then, you know, to be revealed in Man of Steel. That's your end of your book and your story. So here's the thing. Right, I don't particularly like this thing at the end, but it doesn't necessarily bother me either, if that makes any sense.
It annoys me because it feels like just change for the sake of it. In the same way that a lot of stuff in the New 52 did, this kind of feels like that to me. Of like, well, we have a perfectly good origin that we've been using. This is just like, oh, hey, let's do something new just because we can.
Well, no, but here's the thing, Connor. This is not new to Bendis or New 52. As far as I'm concerned, this is the exact same thing. Every single time someone wants to take their big crack at Superman, they always try to add something into the Krypton part of it, the origin part of it.
And I hate it every time.
I agree. I wish they'd stop doing it. Move forward, do new things. But because they all do it, I'm just kind of like, whatever. But he was always going to do this.
So I'm open to Bendis because I've yet to be disappointed really by Bendis. So that said, you guys already brought up change for the sake of change.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Krypton got destroyed by its own ignorance and then arrogance.
As do I, actually, yeah.
So because it makes it tragic that Superman being the last of his kind is due to the Kryptonians. It's not due to anybody else.
That's it.
So the fact that you're going to give him a victim complex now because this guy wiped out Krypton to settle some whatever it is, I don't know if I like that. But that said, we don't know anything about this guy, and he could be
lying. He could think he destroyed Krypton and didn't really. That could be the ultimate reveal. There's lots of ways for us to go, which is why I think it's pointless in getting angry or whatever.
That's it. That's what I said. I didn't enjoy that final reveal because, like you guys said, it was kind of like okay, one of these again. Unless it's Brainiac destroying the planet, I really don't need it to come from external sources.
Well, I think part of the reason why I like that it's Kryptons themselves and their own ignorance that lead to their demise. I like that because it feels topical, especially now more than ever. Mm-hmm. And it feels kind of oddly cheap to change it to, no, a big alien dude did it. There's no lessons to learn here about Earth.
Because that's part of the thing. That's why he was the only rocket to get off. Because they said, no, we're not leaving. And we've just gotten a lot of these stories between, Green Lanterns and then that story in Superman about the planet's being destroyed and the other people, oh no, that's God's will. We can't leave.
But like I say though, I think it's pointless to get even remotely upset about this just now, because even if it turns out to be true, that doesn't necessarily mean, because the actual writing could otherwise be fantastic through everything he's about to do. And
Connor,
look, I'm definitely not upset or angry about it. I'm just, to me, this was like, it was a very, it was fine. It was just standard. It was just like, okay, here's a start of a basic Superman story, and then. And then this went, and here's your cliffhanger, here's your thing, your hook to bring you to Man of Steel. And I went, ugh.
You're going to read it anyway. Reaction. It's fine.
I was like that Bendis, so it's fine. I wanted Bendis to write Lois for so long. And that will be good. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this so much, that there's no point in getting upset or angry, because I feel like the comic community... and I think it's because comics are so fragmented. We get such small chunks that people always try to judge the whole story after one issue or after one reveal before letting. Let's see how it plays out and how it resolves before we get upset. You're saying comic fans are reactionary? And sometimes react to things?
Yes.
I would have never thought.
Just on the occasion, Matt. On the occasion.
Okay. Yeah,
on the occasion. But.
I do agree with what you're saying. I think the problem is this is what they're selling it on. This is what they're saying, hey, come to Man of Steel to find out about this. That's the advert at the back of this.
Yeah, but up till this point, the advert had been Bendis. Huh? So, it's not like this was the first sign that Bendis was coming. He had already started.
Well, we had many signs that Bendis was coming.
Yeah, he gave the signs that he was coming and signals. So, and so, I've seen a lot of people get upset about it and that it's cheap. And it's like, well, let's hold on. And usually, look, I'm usually the one that jumps to conclusions.
Yes.
Right? That's my thing, especially when Gotham's involved in any way. But I've learned, in the last couple of years, especially after New 52.
Here's my thing, right? So if this ends up being completely true, he is responsible for Krypton. This will be a couple arcs, and then we'll move on to other things, and it's fine. And we'll forget about it, and we'll move on with our lives. It's not a big deal, because this sort of thing happens in comics all the time. Like I say, my biggest annoyance with this is that every goddamn big Superman writer has to put their mark on the origin and insert their thing to retcon into, what's different about the way Krypton died, or how Jor-El sent him here, or, with Supergirl in the 2000s, it was, Jor-El sent you to kill Clark because, he was actually evil and he hated his brother and his nephew.
Yeah,
and so on.
It really doesn't help coming fresh off the Mr. Oz stuff, does it?
No.
No, that's fair.
And to be fair, too, this is all post Doomsday Clock, right? This is what it's supposed to be? Or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because this will catch up to Doomsday Clock still with the rest of the DCU.
Okay. All right. Well, then ignore me, because I thought it was post and it was going to be
Which does mean when Superman shows up in costume in Doomsday Clock, he should have the trunks.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, in theory.
We've only seen him wake up in bed. We've not seen him in costume yet.
No. We only seen it at the end of the first issue.
Yeah.
So, but no, my point was going to be that whatever happens in the Doomsday Clock could change. You know what I mean? Could change things a little bit going forward. But now that it's,
I mean, yeah, sure, yeah, Doomsday Clock could retcon it almost immediately. Sure.
yeah,
Why not?
You know what I mean?
I do actually think the final page is well told, though. Even if you have a problem with what the reveal itself is, I do think that the going to black, you know, as if Superman's lights are going out, as he says that final line, it gives the final line a sense of importance, even if you aren't particularly thrilled with what that final line is.
Yeah, and as far as we know, the villain. This is the focus of Man of Steel, not so much Superman in Action Comics going forward.
I think so. Yeah, I think this is the Man of Steel story. Yeah.
We'll be done. So even if you don't like it, we'll be done in 6 weeks.
Overall, though, I mean, as much as I complained a little bit about the reveal at the end, I'm actually pretty positive, and I'm excited for Bendis' run here. Seemingly so is Matt, not so much Connor.
I've got little left to add. I don't know. I'm underwhelmed.
What do you think of the collection as a whole, the whole issue?
I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was a nice celebration of Superman. And I feel like sometimes Superman gets the short shrift when it comes to these celebrations. So the fact that they really went all out for Action 1000 and I feel like we got to celebrate why Superman is so great. And people can share in how I feel.
No, I like I think 1000 actually is sometimes with these anthology books, sometimes you come out being hit or miss, and for the most part though, I like pretty much all the stories to some degree.
Yeah. There's a couple I'm not super keen on, but overall, much more hits than misses.
The whole thing's a love letter to Superman. You can just feel the love pouring out of it.